Hello, believers, non believers, and everyone in between. You're listening to Stories with Sapphire. I am Sapphire Sandalo. Now get cozy and open your mind because it's story time. The Hallway Voice, submitted by Hope. While this isn't the most exciting or interesting encounter, it's something that I've had in the back of my mind for years now. This took place when I was about 6 to 8. I can't remember. The memory's always really fuzzy. For some context, I used to live in an old town in Australia called Ballarat. I've heard people say it might be one of Australia's haunted towns, which I'm not fully surprised about. It was basically an old gold mining town, and it definitely was old. It was also the site of a war, a small one, the Battle of Eureka, if I remember, not the whole Emu War. At that time, my bed was in the center of my bedroom. While lying in my bed, I could see right into the hallway outside. For another bit of context, I used to have really bad nightmares. Not your usual little kid ones, more graphic ones. Ones where I fully understood aspects of torture before I was old enough to name it. It was concerning enough that I had to go to mandated counseling, but it didn't do much for me. I've kind of grown out of it, except for the occasional nightmare, but I now know how to fall back asleep. At the time, the nightmares were bad enough that I had trouble falling and staying asleep, so I was often up at odd times in the night. I had a lamp in the corner near the door that I used to keep on until I was practically about to pass out from unconsciousness, and I'd keep my bedroom door and curtains open so I wasn't in complete darkness. One night, maybe around 8 or 9, I was trying to fall asleep. I remember looking up towards the hallway, and all I saw was this kind of black, abyssal shape just standing there. I couldn't really make out anything specific about it except for a glowing white orb, like its face was just this orb that was moving away as the shape was moving. Think of it like moving a sparkler, that little train of light. And as it passed the door, the lamp in the corner turned off, and I heard it say, "Good night, Lisey." Lisey is my family nickname, a version of my kinda dead name, Elise, only used by my immediate family. The voice sounded exactly like my granddad, but he never called me Lisey, and he lived in Melbourne, over an hour away. There was no way he was randomly in my house at 9 p.m. Obviously, this caught me off guard, so I slipped out of bed and walked into the hallway. I looked up and down, but no one was there. It was just a regular hallway at night. And that's roughly where the memory ends. I simply shrugged it off and went back to bed. I remember something in my mind was telling me that it was calm, that whatever that was, it meant no harm, even though I was scared. I'm telling you this story because maybe a year ago, me, my mom, and dad were sitting down and sharing stories. My mom mentioned how often she had this experience of being watched in that house, where things would move randomly. That surprised me, quite a bit actually, since before that, I never took her as a person who believed in that sort of thing. I then told her about my experience, seeing the black shape with the white orb, hearing Granddad's voice, and she froze. My granddad is still alive and well, but every time I hear him over the phone and say my name, I keep reliving that memory of hearing his voice say, "Lisey." And even as someone who's just about to turn 21 and now lives in the UK, I still sometimes think about that incident, how much it probably unintentionally changed me. I spoke with 2 friends some time ago as I'm writing this, as it has taken some time to fully want to send this story to you. I was told that what I experienced was quite rare because ghosts usually don't physically interact with people. Sure, you can feel them, but for a ghost to switch off a light, from what I've been told, that's quite uncommon. Again, I don't quite know how or what to feel about that memory. Kind regards, Hope. So, what you're describing is actually something that has happened to me a lot, where I hear somebody's voice, and for a long time it would happen when I was in that place of still awake but falling asleep. So, I always chalked it up to be some sort of like auditory hallucination. But then what started happening was I would hear these voices, and then someone else who was with me would see a shadow figure at some point. So I started to wonder if there was a connection between shadow figures and these mysterious voices. So my current theory about all of this is that shadow figures are literally shadows and echoes of living people. So they'll take on the traits and voices of the people in that house or who have been in that house. So because your family would call you Lisi, that shadow figure called you that. And maybe it heard your granddad's voice at some point, and that's why it mimicked his. A lot of the voices that I personally heard were the voices of people who were in the house at the same time as me, or a familiar voice. So, and I definitely go back and forth on the auditory hallucination aspect of it all, because I do also have a hard time falling asleep sometimes, and I have like really weird, vivid dreams. But the fact that the light turned off when this thing spoke to you, I don't think that it was just a hallucination, but I do think it was sort of this thing that's kind of like imitating the idea of a family member, if that makes sense.